Hello and welcome to my studio. In this video I'm going to show you how I made this image. I've arranged some props to form this image. This conveys a narrative, a story. The old rose has broken through the steel, and with some careful lighting I have reinforced that story. And in this video I will show exactly how it was all done. Okay, so to get started then, what I've done is arranged this old piece of steel on this table and put a few bits of extra prop around just to reinforce what I'm trying to convey. Now this piece of steel already had this crack in it with the hole in the middle, which is what gave me the idea of poking something through that to make a bit of a storyline. So then this forms the subject. So the next thing I'm going to need is to set up my camera. Now I have this camera which is tethered into Capture One software, and on the front of the camera I have a 24-70 zoom lens. On the top of the camera I have this flash sync trigger, which is also capable of controlling the energy in the studio flashes. Okay, so I'm just going to pop this on this tripod. Now to actually make this image, it's very important that you put your camera on a tripod. You can't handhold it for this because there is a couple of times where I will be taking 2 or 3 exposures and then blending those together later on in Photoshop. Okay, so the first thing to do is just to see how much influence the ambient lights are having on this particular scene. So for that, I'll just have a look at the camera settings, which I can do through the software. So over here we have all the camera settings, and you can see that the shutter speed is set to 1/30th of a second with an aperture of 2.8 at an ISO of 100. So with these settings, without doing anything else, I'll just grab an image. There you go, and you can see that, okay, it's not been focused yet. I haven't set anything up on that front, but you can actually see that there is quite a lot of image showing there. Now that is due to these camera settings. So by increasing the shutter speed up to the maximum for the particular camera I'm using when using it with flash, which is called the flash sync speed, that would be 1/250th of a second. And if I grab another test, you'll be able to see the difference that makes. There, the image has almost disappeared, but not quite. So in order to make it disappear, I'm going to increase the aperture from 2.8 to a more reasonable f8. We'll test that again. And there, the whole thing has disappeared. Okay, so from that little experiment we know that with those settings we're safe to light this and the ambient lights in the room aren't going to make any difference to the picture. Right, so the next thing to do would be just to compose that picture. So just looking through the viewfinder, I'll just try and focus that up. There we go, we can bring that nicely into focus. And I might just zoom that in ever so slightly as well. We can always adjust this a bit later. Redo the focus, there we are. Excellent, okay. So with that done, the next thing to do would be to set up a background. Here we are, so this will form the background to my picture. And this is basically a piece of card which I've just put on the C-stand just to hold it in place. Now I'm using a piece of card so that it has a very smooth surface. Therefore if I put incident light on this, there'll be no ripples which will disturb the pattern formed by that light. Now I've got a reasonable gap here between the subject and the background, but it's not huge. It's fairly compact. And that's possible because this is a piece of grey card. If it was white, any illumination from the subject that spilt onto the background would show up. But because it's grey, it tends not to. It will still to a certain degree, so you've got to be fairly careful how you light it. But it's a lot more forgiving. Okay, so with that in place, I'll just check that in the viewfinder and just make sure that it's in the right place. Yeah, that looks like it's in about the right place. So with that set, the next thing to do would be to think about the lighting. Now I'm going to light this predominantly from behind. So what I want to do is set up a light about here somewhere. So here we are. This is a Profoto B2 studio flash. This has a modelling light built into it. It's about 1000 joules, although I don't think I'll need anything like that sort of energy. So we'll just turn that on. And we'll just have that at an arbitrary energy level to start with. I don't believe in using flash meters, especially if you have your camera tethered into a fully calibrated monitor. There is absolutely no point in using a flash meter. This will be far more accurate. Some people call it trial and error, but it works very well and will give you very accurate results. So just turning on the flash sync trigger, I'll just make sure that's talking to the flash, which it is. So with all that done, we'll just grab an image. Okay, so we can see from this that it's generally a little dark, but also we're getting quite a lot of spill onto the background here. So the first thing I'm going to do is address that problem, and I'm going to do that with the aid of this reflector. So I'm just going to put this reflector on here to concentrate the beam a bit and kill the spill from the sides. So this should generally make everything go this way instead of that way, but we'll see how we go. Give that another test. There, I think that's worked quite well. Just with an arbitrary setting, it's possibly a little bright in places. Let's just have a bit of a look around the image. No, I think that's okay. I will leave that as it is. Okay, so we're getting the beginnings of an image coming together there, but we do need to light this background. And that's the next thing that I'm going to do. Here we are. I have a small studio head here, which I'm just going to place fairly close to the background, something like that. By putting it in this position, it's going to have a bit of a glancing blow onto the background. So just again, at an arbitrary energy level, we'll just give that a test. Okay, so you can see from this image, this is possibly not what I want. I want something which is a bit more concentrated, just around this side here. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is add another reflector just to this light at the back, which should have the desired effect. Just pop that on the front there. That. Okay. Now adding the reflector will also increase the illumination, so we may need to alter that. I'll just grab an image. Yes, that's the sort of thing that I want, but it is a bit too bright. So I'll just take a couple of stops of energy out of that light at the back, which I can do by selecting the light and then just reducing the amount of energy in it. 1 stop, 2 stops. Okay, grab another image. There we are. I think that's working quite well. That's giving me the sort of shape that I wanted and about the right sort of density. And now it's just a case of colouring that light, and to do that I'm just going to use this gel, and I'm just going to place that on the front of the light just to give it a bit of colour. So that just pops in there like that. So with that in place, we'll just grab another image and see what it looks like. Good, that seems to be coming together quite well. So in the original image you'll have seen that there was some smoke which was coming up through the hole here, which had a bit of a orange tinge to it. Now that was achieved by using again another little studio head together with an orange filter. So I just place the filter on the head, and then I'm just going to place this head underneath the steel. Something like that. Like that. Here we are. Okay. And just to finish that off, I'm just going to use a piece of black cloth just to cover this end, just to stop any stray light coming out. Like that. Okay. We'll give that a try. Okay, so you can see on this one the effect that's had, and it's possibly a little bright for what I want. So I'm just going to turn that down. Again, selecting that head, I can then just take, shall we say, 2 stops off the energy, like that, and fire that again. Okay, that's a bit better. It's calmed it down quite a lot. But you can also see that in this image, the front face of the rose here and the front face of most of the props really isn't illuminated that well. So in order to make that a little better, what I'm going to do is add a reflector. And for that reflector I'm going to use a mirror, and I'm going to put a mirror around here somewhere. Here we are. Now I'm using this mirror on a stand like this, but you can hand hold it. But this gives it a bit more control over exactly where it's going to be. So in order to find out just where it's going to be, what I'm going to do is turn the modelling light on this flash. So again, selecting that flash, turn the modelling light on, like so, and in order to see what it's doing, I'll just turn the house lights out. Okay. So now, as I move this around, you should be able to see the effect it's having on the rose. If I just place it about there somewhere, we'll just grab an image. There, that's filled in quite nicely. If we go back to the previous image, this is what we had before, and this is what we've got now. But obviously this is in the shot, but actually that won't matter because it can be taken out in post-production, and I'll show you how we do that a little later. So with that done, it's time to sort out some smoke. Now for that, what I'm using is this smoke machine, which I've just set up on the edge of the table here, and that comes with a remote. So we'll just bring that round to the camera position. Now hopefully when I press the trigger here, that should make the smoke machine work, and we should get some smoke coming up through the hole. It's all a bit random, so you just have to take multiple images and pick the one you want. Okay, off we go then. Okay, so I think that was quite successful. There are quite a few images there to choose from. So almost certainly I'll be able to pick something which will be appropriate for this image. Okay, but you can see from the pictures there that there's an awful lot of bits in the image at the moment that we don't want to end up in the finished article. So what you need to do is make what is called a blank slate. So that is something without all the various bits in it that you don't want to appear. So the way to do that is just to make sure you don't move the camera at all, and then just very carefully move everything else out of the image that you don't want to be in it. So that would be the mirror and the smoke machine. So without moving the camera at all, what I'll do now is just take another image, like that, and that will form my blank slate. Okay, so with that final image now captured, it just remains to pick the best of the smoke one and to put all the images into Photoshop and do the post-production. Okay, so here we are in Photoshop, and this is the blank slate image, and this is the variant of the smoke which I've selected to go forward with. So the first thing I'm going to do is just make a stack of those, and the easiest way to do that is to let Photoshop do it for you. So click on File, come down to Scripts, go down to Load Files into Stack, ask it to load the open files, and just click on OK. There we are. So over here I have two layers with a separate image on each layer, the smoke on the first one and the blank slate on the bottom one. So with the first one selected, what I'm going to do is just add a layer mask to that, just by clicking on the icon at the bottom. And under the properties, I'm just going to invert that, which will hide it, like so. So this is the blank slate. So wherever I paint on this mask in white, it will reveal the one which is underneath it. So, going over here, just make sure that you've got black and white is selected as the foreground colour. We'll grab a paintbrush and make that quite large, something like that. And starting on the rows, I'm just going to paint it through. And you can see that as I do that, it brings in the image which is underneath. So what I can do is just go along here, lighten all this lot up, like so. And follow the smoke trail up. This, I'll bring all the little wispy bits in on the side there. Here we are, and if I go too far, like I've gone over here where the mirror was, I can just go back over here and set the foreground colour to black and just paint that back out again, like so. There we are. There, that's looking quite nice. Now the next thing that I want to do is just set a crop, I think. So I'll just find the crop tool. I'm going to go for a specific ratio, which is 16:9. And I'm just going to adjust the handles until I've got the part of the image that I want. There. I might actually go for a bit more than that. Just bring the sides out ever so slightly, like so. Yes, I think that will look quite nice. Not too sure about what it'll look like at the top, but we'll give it a go and see what happens. Yeah, that looks okay. I might just take this smoke down just at the very top here. And again, I can do that non-destructively by using the mask. So if I select the mask for that, and then select my paintbrush again, but this time I'll turn the opacity down from 100% down to maybe 30. And we'll just wipe over this area at the top. And every time I take it down, it'll just take it down that little bit. There we are. Just like that. Also, I'm not too sure whether I want this bit on the side here, so I might just take that out. So what I'm going to do for that is just add another layer. So we'll just add a layer like that, and I'm literally just going to paint that out in black. So making sure that that is black, I'll pick a very big brush, take the opacity back to 100%, and I'm just going to run down the edge, just the very edge, just to take that just down a little like that. That's much better. And the same on this corner, I think. There. Very good. And there we have it. So by setting up a few props, careful lighting, and a little smoke and mirrors, it is possible to create an image that can convey a message or a story. And I think this one has worked very well. Yes, I think that's made quite a nice little picture. Now, if you like watching how I do these sort of things, do click on the other images as they appear, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you very much for watching.